Hey folks, I want to come on here and shoot another solo episode. Things seem to be going well on the podcast. Notified me yesterday. If you're listening on Spotify, it'd be great if you could follow along. It says that I could have more followers by now based on the listens, something along those lines. I need to double check. I think 275 followers. So it'd be great if you could click follow. I think I mentioned on another episode, it's probably easier for you as well, be in your library rather than having to open it up, excuse me, and then look at the different episodes and go from there. So if you're listening, feel free to on Spotify and not YouTube, or if you're on YouTube, feel free to go over to Spotify and save it to your library. You can listen to the audio version as well if you're in the gym or if you're out on a run in the car. Yeah, so today I wanted to come on and chat a bit about resilience. This has been top of my mind for a number of years, especially over the last 4 years when I was on a break for my health. I bought a book and it was gifted to me. I think I bought it, and it's called The Art of Resilience: Strategies for an Unbreakable Mind and Body by Ross Edgley. Incredible individual, incredible book, incredible story. Chris Hemsworth. So here it is. Aside, I won't go in. This isn't a book review. Super interesting. From reading this book, the message that comes shining through in this: you can achieve anything. Ant Middleton, a hero who is as humble as he is resilient, testament to a never give up spirit. Bear Grylls, 157 days at sea, 1,780 miles, one unbreakable man. Award-winning adventurer Ross Edgley has spent years undertaking extreme experiments that push his body to the furthest limits. On the 4th of November 2018, Ross became the first person in history to swim all the way around Great Britain. During this epic 1,780-mile journey, Ross swam among giant jellyfish, through Arctic storms, and across polluted shipping lanes, going so hard and so fast that his tongue fell apart. Now, for the first time, Ross shares how he triumphed in his daunting world-first exploit, analyzing the performance of extreme athletes and military fitness specialists, focusing on the mental strength, stoicism, which we talked about on the last episode briefly around mindset, just briefly touched upon it, and training needed to create an unbreakable mind and body. Super interesting. I may leave a link to the book, won't be affiliated, or a bit about Ross's story. I felt like swimming around Ireland after reading this book, or after learning a bit about Ross. It's super interesting to show us about how he trained for it. And but this isn't a book review. This is just talking about the concept of resilience, which we'll get into today, which can be applied to multiple different areas of life. Resilience is the ability to adapt, recover, and grow stronger in the face of stress, adversity, or change. It doesn't mean avoiding difficulty. It means being able to bounce back and sometimes forward after challenges. Key aspects of resilience: emotional regulation, staying balanced under stress, cognitive flexibility, seeing problems from different angles and finding solutions, social support, relying on healthy relationships, purpose and meaning, having goals or values that guide you through difficulty, adaptability, adjusting to new situations effectively. Examples: a person losing a job and using it as a chance to redirect their career, a community rebuilding after natural disasters, students recovering from academic setbacks and improving their strategies. How to build resilience: practice mindfulness and stress management techniques, maintaining strong social connections, set small achievable goals during tough times, learn from past challenges and recognize your strengths, take care of sleep, exercise, and nutrition. I'm not a psychologist, but I just want to add onto this point about, in psychology, resilience refers to the mental and emotional capacity to cope with stress, trauma, or significant challenges, and to return to a stable level of functioning afterward. It's a core concept in positive psychology, trauma psychology, and developmental psychology. Again, I'm not a psychologist. Well, I did go to one psychology lecture when I was in the University of Galway. I just went into one of the lectures, but I'm definitely not trained in this or have a PhD or a master's, so I'll briefly get into this. How psychology describes resilience: a dynamic process. Resilience isn't a fixed trait. You either have or don't have it. It's a process that can change over time. Psychologists view it it as an interaction between personal factors, temperament, coping skills, environment, family, communication, community, culture, the situation itself, protective factors. Number two, these help reduce the negative impact of stress, secure attachment in childhood, strong social support, optimistic thinking patterns, good problem solving skills, healthy self esteem. Number three, risk factors. These make coping harder: chronic stress, trauma without support, poverty, mental health conditions, unpredictable or unsafe environments. Number four, cognitive components. Resilient people tend to reframe challenges. This is hard, but I can try another way. Focus on what they can control. Keep a realistic but hopeful outlook. This is often rooted in cognitive behavior patterns, such as identifying and challenging unhelpful thoughts. Number five, biological and neuropsychological factors. Research shows that resilience is also linked to healthy stress response systems, HPA axis, neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to change, regulation of emotions via the prefrontal cortex. In other words, both mind and brain adapt to adversity. Developmental psychology. In children, resilience is strongly influenced by a stable, caring adult, opportunities to succeed, predictable routines. Even one supportive relationship can dramatically boost resilience. And I want to go deeper. Super, super interesting. Here is a clear science-based explanation of the neuroscience of resilience, what happens in the brain when we cope well with stress and recover from adversity. That's a really interesting point. What happens in the brain when we cope well from stress and recover from adversity? Interesting. Neuroscience of resilience. Resilience is not just a psychological trait; it's a biological process involving brain circuits, hormones, and molecular changes that help us adapt to stress. For those of you that go to the gym out there, you probably know the concept of rest and principles of rest, like sleep, nutrition, good nutrition, probably getting enough calories in, protein, macronutrients, maybe, and some more advanced, maybe macronutrients and other things like nutrient timing. It's just interesting applying this to other areas of life, like the brain was brought up and brain health, which we won't get into. I'm not a neuroscientist. Maybe one day we'll get a neuroscientist on the show to talk about helping the brain recover from stress as well, not just the body, which could be similar processes like sleep and nutrition. Anyway, I won't get into it too much. Involving brain circuits, hormones, or molecular changes that can help us adapt to stress. Below are the key systems and neural mechanisms involved. Number one, stress response system, HPA axis, which we just talked about. When something stressful happens, the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal HPA axis activates and releases cortisol. Resilient brains return cortisol levels to normal faster. Less resilient brains stay in high alert mode longer, which can lead to anxiety, trauma symptoms, and burnout. Resilience is partly about a flexible, well-regulated stress response, not a weaker one, which I've never heard it that way before. Resilience is partly about a flexible, well-regulated stress response, not a weaker one. This goes on for quite a bit, so I won't get into it too much. Number two, the prefrontal cortex, PFC, the brain's control center. The PFC, especially the ventromedial and dorsolateral regions, help with emotional regulation, decision making, reframing negative thoughts, impulse control. In resilient individuals, the PFCA stays activated during stress. It calms the emotional brain amygdala. It helps generate realistic, adaptive ways of thinking. Think of the PFCA as the wise coach telling your emotional brain how to respond. The amygdala, emotion and threat detection. The amygdala triggers fear and stress responses. Low resilience, amygdala overstimulation, hypervigilance, anxiety. High resilience, amygdala more effectively regulated by the PFC, calmer, more controlled reactions. Resilience isn't about shutting down emotions, but about keeping the amygdala in balance. I really, really like when they said that as well. Resilience isn't about shutting down emotions, about keeping the amygdala in balance. Super, super interesting. The hippocampus, memory and context. The hippocampus helps you learn from stressful experiences. puts memory in context. This happened then, but I'm safe now. Chronic stress can shrink hippocampal volume, but resilience is associated with greater hippocampal activity, more neurogenesis, new neurons, better memory integration. This helps people avoid overgeneralizing fear or trauma. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to change. Neuroplasticity is at the heart of resilience. Resilience involves strengthening neural pathways for coping, growing new connections in the PFC, weakening old patterns of fear or helplessness. This is why therapy, mindfulness, or supportive environments, physically change the brain over time. Wow, that's fascinating. Number 6, neurotransmitters involved in resilience. Several chemicals shape resilience. Serotonin regulates mood and emotional stability. Dopamine, motivation, reward, perseverance. Resilience, which you can maybe look up, maybe we'll talk about it. I think it's about dopamine, pretty sure, and delayed gratification. Resilience is linked to a healthier dopamine system, helps people keep trying despite setbacks. Norepinephrine, focus and alertness under stress. Resilient people regulate this surge more effectively. Endorphins and endocannabinoids, hopefully I got that correct, naturally reduce pain and stress, activated by exercise, social contact, and laughter. Inflammation and, we'll get sooner, we're about 11 minutes in, 12 minutes. Inflammation and the immune system. Stress increases inflammation in the body, which feeds back into the brain. Resilient individuals show lower baseline inflammation, faster return to normal after stress, better immune-brain connection. This is why chronic stress can make people physically ill. Number 8, genetics and epigenetics. Genes influence resilience, but they don't determine everything. Epigenetics changes in how genes are expressed show that supportive relationships, therapy, mindfulness, healthy environments can literally switch on resilience related genes that regulate the stress response. That's fascinating. Just healthy environments, mindfulness, therapy, and supportive relationships. That's super interesting. Not just, but yeah. The neuroscience takeaway: resilience is not about being tough or emotionless. It is about a brain that can detect stress, respond effectively, return to equilibrium, learn from adversity, stay flexible and adaptive. And these capacities can be strengthened, which is super fascinating. These capacities can be strengthened, which leads me on to probably the one thing, the last point, especially if people are going through a lot out there. I'm not sure if this will be the last point or the other one. And the concept of neuroplasticity. If you haven't heard of it before, that's absolutely okay, by the way. Neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to change its structure, function, and connections in response to experience. It is the core biological mechanism that makes resilience, learning, healing, and emotional growth possible. Below is a clear breakdown of how neuroplasticity works and why it matters, which I want to keep us under 15 minutes, so I'll try not to get into too much with 13:33. What is neuroplasticity? Neuroplasticity means the brain can create new neural connections, strengthen existing pathways, weaken or prune pathways no longer needed, form new neurons, especially in the hippocampus. The ability continues your entire life, not just in childhood. Types of neuroplasticity: structural plasticity, physical changes in the brain, growth of new neurons, neurogenesis, creation of new synapses. Snapped it 1 sec. Let me just, again, I want to keep this under 15 minutes. Hopefully we will. Synaptogenesis. Interesting. My first time ever hearing that word. Strengthening or weakening synaptic connections. Example: learning a new skill increases gray matter density. Number 2, functional plasticity. The brain's ability to shift functions from damaged areas to healthy ones. This is why people can regain abilities after a stroke. Number 3, synaptic plasticity. Changes in the strength of communication between neurons. 2 important processes: LTP, long-term podination strengthens synapses. TD, long-term depression weakens unnecessary synapses. Let me just get this correct. We're running over time. Hope not too much. Potentiation. Long-term potentiation strengthens synapses. TD, long-term depression weakens unnecessary synapses. These processes shape memory, learning habits, and emotional patterns. How neuroplasticity supports resilience. Resilience depends on the brain's ability to adapt with stress, which you already talked about, learn from adversity, and form new coping pathways. Neuroplasticity makes this possible by renewing thought patterns, which we talked about. Won't go into too much. Through therapy and mindful practices, the PFC can gain stronger control over the amygdala. Number 2, updating emotional memories. The hippocampus helps us rewire the meanings of past events. This was stressful, but I survived. Number 3, reducing fear responses. Exposure therapy and repetition weaken fear circuits and strengthening safety circuits. Number 4, building new habits. Healthy behaviors become automatic through repeated firing of new neural pathways. Number 5, recovering from trauma. New connections can compensate for areas affected by extreme stress. Just to reiterate, this is super important. 5, recovering from trauma. New connections can compensate. Again, I'm not a doctor, so you probably have to reach out to double check. But I'm on ChatGPT, so hopefully it's correct. All good, maybe I'm wrong. Recovering from trauma, new connections can compensate for areas affected by extreme stress. What strengthens neuroplasticity? These activities are scientifically shown to increase plasticity. Mindfulness and meditation, increase gray matter, strengthens attention and emotional regulation circuits. Number 3, exercise boosts BDNF, brain growth protein, enhances neurogenesis in the hippocampus. Learning new skills, languages, music, problem solving all increase synaptic density. Strong social connections promotes oxytocin and lower stress hormones, enabling plasticity. Sleep, critical for memory and consolidation and rewiring, repetition and challenge. The brain changes through repeated effortful practice. Neuroplasticity and trauma. Trauma also changes the brain, often in ways that overactivate the amygdala and weaken the PFC. The good news is neuroplasticity allows for healing, and the brain can rewire toward safety, calm, and control. This is some of the stuff I did over the career break. Anyway, I won't get into over the career break that I took, which maybe I'll get into it in another episode. Therapies like CBT, EMDR, mindfulness-based therapies. I don't want to make this by myself, by the way. Somatic therapies, which is, I won't get into too much now. All use neuroplasticity to restructure trauma pathways. The core idea, every thought, behavior, and experience strengthens certain neural pathways and weakens others. Plasticity is always happening. Resilience grows when you intentionally shape which pathways you strengthen. I think I'll leave it on that, 18 minutes, and make it a little bit shorter if I edit it. Yeah, just the core idea that every thought, behavior, and experience strengthens certain neural pathways and weakens others. Neuroplasticity is always happening. Resilience grows when you intentionally shape which pathways you strengthen. We already covered this, but it's super interesting about resilience. That could be the one thing, but just to finish off, I know I said I'd finish off on that one. Resilience is the ability to adapt, recover, and remain steady when facing stress, challenges, or adversity. It's not about avoiding difficulties. It is about how well you bounce back from them and sometimes even grow stronger because of them. Resilience means bouncing back, number 1, recovering from setbacks emotionally, mentally, or physically. Number 2, adapting, adjusting your thoughts and behaviors to handle difficult situation. Number 3, staying balanced, not getting overwhelmed by stress for long periods. Number 4, learning and growing, using adversity as a chance to gain skills, wisdom, and strength. What resilience is not. It's not being perfect. It's not being emotionless. It's not ignoring your problems. It's not something you're born with or without. Resilience is a skill and can be strengthened over time. And we already talked a bit about this. What helps you build resilience, supportive relationships, optimistic but resilient, realistic thinking, problem-solving skills, emotional regulation, healthy habits, sleep, exercise routines, a sense of purpose or values, the brain's neuroplasticity, which we went into, ability to adapt and change. In short, resilience is your ability to keep going, which is super interesting. Was on, if we go back to Tim's journey walking across America on his hat, top of his hat it said keep going, which is super interesting. Resilience is your ability to keep going, cope, and adapt, especially when life gets tough. If you want, I can also explain what resilience is, which you already went into. But yeah, thought I'd just finish on that one. If you want a bit more about bouncing back from when you fall down, grit is another great episode. That is on. That is number 20. So yeah, thought I'd end it there. Yeah, if you're struggling and you're wondering what to do out there, the best word that or phrase that comes to mind is just to keep going. And we already discovered and uncovered resilience. Feel free to keep going if you're going through a hard time, or yeah, just keep going in general. Thanks.